Hello, ladies and gents. We are racing through the week towards the weekend. I hope you're all having a really good week at work, school, college, whatever the fuck you're doing. I hope you're having a really good time, and I hope you love doing it. I'm about to go through some hobby stories right now. It should be a rather more uplifting ambiance than what we've been going through the past couple of weeks. If you like what I do with these stories, then leave a like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. The Discord is free down below. Come and say hello to us. And yeah, let's get into some hobby stories, shall we? So, first one is from somebody called Charlie13. Oh, by the way, if you have messaged me on the Discord, sending through some hobby stories, that's great. Thank you. I'm going through the positive ones that are in this video. Some of them are, some of them maybe aren't. But yeah, I will get to yours next time, most definitely. I'm clearing the email backlog before I move everything over to Discord, which is going to be great. So, Charlie13 says, "Hey North, been following for a while and thought I would share a happy story from GW for the hobby stories." That's fair enough. Fantastic stuff. In the late 90s, mid noughties, when I was going as a kid. Sorry. Sometimes when I get these, they're not written in the best way. If you can make sure, if you can, for me, that your stories are written in a way that are easy to read. This is not easy to read, okay? So, in the late 90s, mid 00, when I was going as a kid to Games Workshop, I assume, and also points out something I think GW missed these days. Okay, so you want to point out something that you think GW misses these days. Okay, right, okay. So, Charlie13 says, "I used to go to the old Games Workshop in Liverpool." Oh, brilliant, so did I. The one on Lord Street. Oh, well done. Did you ever see a guy called Paul with the moustache, who's American, just randomly working in a Games Workshop store in Liverpool? Fantastic stuff. Anyway. The one before it moved to where it is currently. Yes, currently Games Workshop Liverpool is Warhammer, and it is in the train station. Weirdly. One of the train stations, anyway. So, I used to go to the old Games Workshop in Liverpool, the one before it moved to where it is now. This was during the times the school booklets came out. Okay, I don't remember those. I vaguely remember those. Well, the store had a little raffle event that if you spent X amount, you got a ticket. Well, went and got a few tickets and showed up that day to the raffle. I pick up a few paints to get an extra ticket, and then onto the draw itself. I don't win. Oh. But at the same time, no one else calls out a ticket. So they pull another out. And again, no one answered the number called. Third time lucky, and it was mine. I probably haven't been so shocked in my life. I joke about already using up my life's worth of luck with that one. The prize I won in the raffle was a 2,000 point Dark Eldar army for 3rd edition. This was the whole raffle event that had a good 30 people in the store, and after they had intro games for people who had just brought their kids. Little things Games Workshop did like this in the past is something I think Games Workshop has forgot in its corporate rise. As an example, the Silver Schools booklet that you could get Codex Assassins with, just little things like that kept me going back to the store until leaving secondary school. Okay. Also, side note, I miss the old Hex paint job so much. Sincerely, Matty. Alright, thank you very much. Well, thank you very much for your lovely message there. That is really, really cool. And yes, Games Workshop back in the day used to do a lot of really cool stuff in stores. Generally, it's been cracked down upon, especially giving away stock. If you're giving away armies, that is a big, 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 big no-no. I was always told, if I was ever caught giving away models for not money, if I was just giving them away, even if it is for a store prize where you paid money to be in the prize draw, I'll be instantly disciplined and maybe fired. Because they treat that in a very similar way, or they did, in a very similar way to buying models on your store discount and then selling them on for a profit. Okay. There were people who did that, Games Workshop, and got sacked, to be fair. So it's not like, they got away with it or anything. But yes, there are definitely people out there who are in Games Workshop who frown very much on things like this going on in Games Workshop. I remember Games Workshop in Liverpool being a really cool place to go back in the day. Thursday nights especially, it was full, and you always had games going on. You had tons of people to talk to. You know, you were all nerding out over the hobby. It was what you looked forward to every single week. You know, my friend's mum would drive us over there, and we would have like two or three battles each. You know, and it'd be such a cool time. And you know, the Games Workshop guys, the red shirts were totally cool and were really good, and G'd us on in the hobby and made sure that they even gave us homework of getting our army lists done in a certain way and things like that. So yeah, they were really cool guys, and it's a shame that's not a thing anymore. I actually rang up Games Workshop Liverpool the other day and said, hey, do you think me and my friend could get in and just have a 500-point game? Really small game, you know, just to practice for our big game the day after. So I said, yeah, could we go in there for a 500-point game? And they said, absolutely not. Absolutely not. We don't do that thing in store anymore. You know, since COVID. And I think that they've used the pandemic to basically get everybody out of the store, essentially, and say, no, we don't do gaming in the store anymore. It might have changed since then, but this is like 6 months ago now. But it does seem to me to be very, 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 very... it's a shame. It's a real shame. But anyway, moving on. Okay, so... This one is from Colquit89. Thank you very much for emailing me, Colquit. So, hey Exile, loving the channel, and hey to you. Sorry it took me ages to get back to this, but I very rarely read the ones from email, and I should read them, because these are some really cool stories. Alright, he says, I just wanted to share a decent hobby story from when I was a kid. Well, a few years ago, actually. I'm only 20. Anyway, I go to my local Games Workshop every week, or at least I did until they stopped letting us play games in there. Ah, we just covered that. Okay. I was just starting in the hobby and was really getting into Black Templars, and what I can only describe as a local celebrity, he's an Aussie comedian, okay, cool, was also playing the boys in black, the Black Templars. So, we have Colquit here, who is in his own Games Workshop in Australia, I'm assuming, and he has a friend of his, or somebody else who is in the store, who plays Black Templars, who is an Australian comedian. Right, with you, on board. He kind of took me under his wing every week, and we would ally up, me with my 500 odd points of Black Templars, and his own Black Templar army. That was pretty cool. His army was huge and beautifully painted, something like 15,000 points, if I am being honest with my memory. Okay, cool. Well, this was cool enough, right? Yeah, that is cool. You know, he's there with you, he's playing games with you, that's pretty cool. Well, one day, I head back to my GW, and the manager is beaming at me. Okay? He says he has something for me in the back, and he will go to bring it out. That day, my dad had insisted on coming into the store with me, and I did not know why. Well, it turns out the Games Workshop manager had called ahead and asked him to come with me. Okay. The Games Workshop manager explains that Tim, the comedian who I played with, had gone over to the UK on a last-minute tour as a replacement for another comedian. He was basically moving over there full-time for a while and could not bring his army with him at such short notice. He left a signed note stating an inventory of all of his Black Templar models and that he had signed ownership of them over to me with a note from his lawyer, free of charge. He asked me to keep fighting the good fight in the note. He ended the note with, no pity, no remorse, no fear. It's safe to say I will only ever be collecting Black Templars. This guy basically made my university years thanks to this act of random kindness. Anyway, thanks for the channel. Thank you, Colquitt. Wow, that is an amazing story. That's really, really cool. But like, I do have a tendency to believe that hobbyists who have a lot, let's say like celebrities or people who've got a bit of money, or even non-celebrities who just, you know, have money because they've done quite well in life, they tend to spread the love quite a lot, especially if you don't traipse around them, buttering them up. If you just leave them to it and let them get on with it and let them enjoy their hobby, that they will eventually, they'll pick out the guys who deserve it the most, and when they get that moment to give over what they have, they will. And I genuinely think the hobby brings out the best in these people, and brings out the best in people full stop, to be honest with you. And then we've gone over a lot of negative stories, but there are a hell of a lot of people like this in the hobby, even people who aren't very rich, even people who don't have a lot of money, right? Those people will still go out of their way to ensure that hobbyists around them get what they need and are happy. And that's great. That's great, because they're having a good time in the hobby and they can afford to spread the love. But again, that is a fantastic story. I don't know of any Australian comedians named Tim, but if you guys do in the comments, let me know. I'll send him some love. Anyway, unless he's really famous, then he's never going to get my message anyway. So, anyway. Alright. Alright, Jesse Pulverizer. You guys, some of these names are just fucking terrifying. Jesse Pulverizer. He says, or she, I don't know. He says, yo, love the channel, love the content. I have a happier story from happier times for you. Okay. It is funny you should talk about shitty experiences from Games Workshop managers, as my local manager was a top bloke. Helped me out a lot with the hobby, and always made sure there was space for me in painting days. I have chronic back pain, so I need to sit a lot. Now that's a thing. That is a thing. Now, I wanted to go over this, because there are a lot of Games Workshop managers out there who don't like people standing around their store or sitting on seats in their store. It's a big thing. It's a big no-no, because you're taking up space, people have to walk around you, and you're kind of treating it like it's your own personal hobby club, right? There are people out there, and we used to have a few in the Games Workshop that I worked in, who genuinely needed help to be mobile. And those guys were still attitude from the manager about, you know, sitting around in the store, which I thought was pretty fucking awful, to be honest with you, but it is what it is. Anyway, I'm going back to Jess. Anyway, I see he is getting run down week after week, the manager, he means. Just constant growth deadlines missed, and things like that. This is the year after 8 came out. So, of course, sales are going to be down a little on the previous year. I tell him that, and in brackets he says, I work in corporate finance. Think cyberpunk, but not as cool. Okay. But he would take it to heart. So it clicked with me a lot when you mentioned that. Okay, yeah, I've mentioned that in the past. I had a very similar time to this guy. My first year as a manager at Games Workshop, the year before that, 8th edition had just dropped. Probably the biggest launch Games Workshop have ever had up to that point. And yeah, the year after that, our sales were down in that month or two by 8%, which is a fucking good number considering, you know, the jump it had the year before. But I was still getting shit for it. I was still getting like, this isn't, you're losing money, you're doing this, you're doing that, you know, this is ridiculous, you know, why are you losing money? I'm like, well, I'm not losing money. If you compare me to 2 years ago, right, I'm 36% up on what that store did, right? On last year, yeah, I'm 8% down because you just brought out 8th edition and you were selling them like hotcakes. So yes, I'm 8% down. But compared to the year before that, which I should be compared against, I'm, you know, 30 in the mid 30% up. So, you know, didn't fly, didn't care. So, you know, it's one of those. Back to Jess's story anyway. Anyway, finally, this bloke gets a job over at CEX, the video game retailer. Yep, I know a lot about them. I think they do video games and second-hand computers and laptops and consoles and things. They seem pretty chill whenever I've gone to a CEX in the UK. They seem pretty chill. They seem pretty, you know, just getting on with it, really. Does smell in there sometimes, though, weirdly. So, anyway, finally, this bloke, the manager, gets a job over at Computer Exchange, the video game retailer, working there as a manager. Cool. On his way out of the door, on his last day, he says that for months he has been asking Games Workshop HQ for the go-ahead to do a nice diorama in the window. They told him to known loss, quote-unquote, a load of stuff and use it for the diorama. Yes, so when Games Workshop, when you go to do stuff in the store for yourself, or for the for the store for you to do in the store as a diorama or as a gaming board or whatever. Games Workshop will either ask you to requisition it from them, from the head office, in which it will come in your delivery, or they will ask you to basically known loss it. So take it off the shelf, run it through the till as a known loss thing, and on the till it literally says, what are you using it for? And you say, I'm using it for a diorama or whatever, and it goes through, right? So they then ask him to hold off on building the diorama. Probably because he's leaving. Fair enough. Finally, the day comes for him to leave, and they instruct him to take down the diorama in the window for the new manager. The diorama he's not even started building yet. Okay, that sounds like head office, yes. He knows I collect Eldar, and so he takes all of the known lost bits and just slaps them on the table near me. I'm talking around £500 worth of gear, and tells me to just, I quote, go nuts. That's fucking brilliant. Okay. The shop was stunned into silence. The manager said, well, they aren't going to use it or sell it. They will just throw it out. You may as well get some use out of it. What a diamond. Anyway, I hear these days he's working in law. Crazy. But glad he's doing really well, and yes, I still have the army. Cheers, mate. Alright, thank you very much, Jess. That's fucking amazing. That's really, really funny. Just slaps it down right next to you and is like, yeah, okay, just go on, man. You have it all. All this, this grey crack. That's fantastic. I really like that. I really like that as a story. And to be honest with you, I think this should happen more often. When a manager leaves, don't steal stock, guys. Don't do that. Don't throw things in your bag. But if you've got a situation like this, where the models have been set aside for something else that's not going to happen, and you don't want to take them home anyway because you don't do Eldar or something, then the best thing to do, is to find someone in the store who's going to benefit and who's going to keep coming back to that store and say, hey man, I'm going to make your year. Bang, there's a full army. There you go. That person will keep coming back to that Games Workshop store all of the time now, and you've hooked them in. So well done. It's a really cool thing to do going out the door. And if you think that's theft, let me tell you before what I've told everybody else. The box that the models come in is worth more than the models in the box. So yeah. The Games Workshop are not going to put this stuff back into a pack and sell it. They're just going to throw it out, melt it down, and that's it. So somebody may as well get some use and some joy out of it, as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, Lockhammer. Cool name, man. Lockhammer. Nice to meet you, man. He says, hi, so my story is a bit of a serious but a lovely one, I think. I have a friend, girl, but we're just mates. I'm gay. Okay, fair enough. Don't clip that. That's from the story, right? In fact, I'll read it again. Hi, so my story is a bit serious but a lovely one, I think. I have a friend, girl, but we're just mates. I'm gay. I'm just giving you an opportunity to cut that twice, haven't I? Anyway, he was quite severe epilepsy. Okay, she gets quite a lot of attention from guys, as she has been described as hot, quote unquote, but never really at the hobby store. That's cool. That's cool to know. All right, cool. So when you're going out for drinks, she's getting attention, but when she goes to the hobby store, she's left alone. Good. Okay, that's great. I guess we've been lucky, as she's had big problems with creeps at Magic the Gathering tournaments. just as I open my fat mouth, and other things like that. But the Warhammer crew have been immense. Yes, fucking right. Cool. If you can hear the smile on my face, fuck you, Magic the Gathering. We're the best. Right? Yeah, we are definitely. So, I've heard this a lot about Magic the Gathering. No offense to anybody who plays Magic at all, 'cause I'm sure a lot of people pay 40k also play Magic. Not a problem. But in all honesty, I've heard this a lot about Magic the Gathering tournaments. Where you get some special specimens in there, shall we say, who tend to fun fact actually, an ex of mine who was still friends, still have a conflab every now and again. She told me that she was going to Magic the Gathering tournaments, and I said, "Oh right, have you not met any creeps?" And she goes, "No, I've not noticed anybody." And the very next one she went to, she was like, now I'm looking out for it. I know exactly what you mean. And I was like, yeah, the odd comments, they're looking at you, the leching, they're lurking over your table, shit like that. Yeah. I was like, yeah, exactly. I will be honest, and I've said this before, I've seen bad things in Warhammer stores, but 95% of the time, if not more, they're a cool crew to hang around with. And no matter what sex or wherever it is you are, whether you're a man or a woman or, whatever, doesn't matter. Like, they'll treat you exactly the same. You always get your special specimens, and I think people have gotten the wrong idea about the hobby nightmares. They're called hobby nightmares, dude. Like, what do you want from me? Like, people are going to send me cringy stories about the hobby because they're interesting to hear about, especially if that's never happened to you, right? Most of these things have happened in my presence before, kind of things. But I've been in the hobby for a long time, and unlike you guys, there were years of my life where I was literally paid to be in a hobby store every day of the week. So I would see a lot of this stuff. But it does happen to other people. So I would say, try not to call people liars who are sending in stories, because it's quite brave of them to do so, and that's not cool. That's all I'll say on that one. But on the flip side, I get entertainment out of these, so I just love reading them. It's not up to me to decide whether they're true or false. That's up to you. But anyway, moving on. So they've had big problems at Magic the Gathering tournaments with this girl who was described as quote-unquote hot. But the Warhammer crew have always been immense. Cool. One day, my friend she seems a bit off as she plays with her Tyranids against the guy's Necrons. She's swaying and constantly fidgeting. I noticed this, but I've never seen her take a turn before. Then it happens, and she's shaking and frothing, collapsing to the floor, and just generally scaring everybody. Okay. She's having a fit, essentially. Q1 Neckbeard, and I mean Neckbeard, he's put it in capitals, and I mean Neckbeard, diving across the room and getting a plastic-handled paintbrush from his set, that he then puts in her mouth and throws her into the recovery position and gently holds her down. He asks me to stroke her hair as she begins to settle, and gets the manager to grab her some water. She comes to and is very thankful and teary out of embarrassment, but all the lads are clapping her on the back and are clapping her on the back and shit. One even says something like, "I get those too, and you took it like a champ," or something like that, but I forget. That's fucking immense, dude. That's fucking amazing. That's so cool. It was funny in the moment, but I think I was too hemped up to notice. That's amazing. That is so fucking brilliant. Okay, cool. The Neckbeard says something like, "Hey, no worries, my brother gets them. It's not a big deal." And goes right back to murdering with his orcs without missing a beat. Found out his name was Michael, and I've been for a pint with him a few times. Top man. And definitely caused me to think twice about the Neckbeard stereotype. Cheers, love the channel. Yep, thank you very much. Alright, cheers, man. That is a fucking phenomenal story. That is brilliant. And again, yeah, you never know. You never know. You may walk into a hobby store, look at a guy with his pants around his arse and, like, scratching his backside and, like, breathing out of his mouth and the proper neck beard, and you may think, oh yeah, one of those. But you never fucking know. You never know. One of these guys could just snap into action straight away in a situation like this and help somebody out that they don't know for no expectation of a reward or to be a white knight or anything, just to help somebody. And that is truly, truly phenomenal to me. I want more stories like this. I would love to intersperse the negative with the positive, so keep sending these in, because I love hearing these. They're just fantastic stuff. And well done to that man. Well done to that man indeed. Absolutely brilliant. Gotta love the hobby. Gotta love the hobby. Alright. The next one is from Bolt. This is from Discord. And Discord ones tend to be worse typed because they don't format properly when you cross them over. So, Bolt says, I have a funny feeling this might be a negative one. Oh man, how do I even start this? Your channel on the tube, even though we don't agree on all points about Games Workshop, I love the idea behind the company and have some great memories with co-workers and my time there. All right, cool. So Bolt used to work for GW. Excellent. All right. I feel like I want to get this out because it's just insane. I worked for the Games Workshop store, in Denmark. I'm not going to say the city, but in Denmark for 3.5 years, and I had the pleasure of working under the most incompetent manager to ever grace the Emperor's world. Okay. His best skill was hiring people that made him redundant, and as such, he kept a healthy work-life balance by keeping a working week of 20 hours, give or take. Yeah, that sounds familiar. One thing I will say about my manager is that he was there all the time. You know, he worked a proper schedule, but he didn't have to do a lot. He basically just did the overarching running of the store. So, like, the accounting, you know. But the day-to-day running of it and getting people into the hobby and selling people shit, we would do that. So the two guys in the store would run the store, and he would generally oversee what was going on in the store, essentially, you know. So basically, yeah, he was redundant, essentially, because we could do the accounting and all that without him. So basically redundant. When a position opened up in the store, I applied because I was working a worse job and needed to get the fuck away from it. Okay, cool. Being the only applicant who was not a total goblin. Sorry. I love it. Okay. Sorry, that just tickled me. Being the only applicant who was not a total goblin, I got the job after a conversation with the guy in Holland. In Dutch. I think he means in Dutch. After a conversation with the guy in Dutch. I'm fluent in Dutch because I'm a boss like that. This guy's hilarious. Alright. First days were basically uneventful. And I didn't really think much about him leaving at about 3 p.m. every day. He had kids to pick up and stuff in the afternoon. And the afternoon staff came in. Our store was open from 11 till 12, Monday to Thursday. Okay, cool. I reached my targets very easily. And the following Christmas, I broke records in core games by selling the Age of Sigmar starter boxes we had. And even selling the extra load we picked up from the retailer down the street, since they refused to sell it. I love Age of Sigmar, and I know it makes me evil in many people's eyes, but I also love plain crackers and take my whiskey clean, so I might just be a horrible human. Fucking hell. Are you sure you're not a comedian or something? In Denmark, we normally close everything the 1st of January, and he decided to use that day to host an in-store apocalypse game. Cool idea, bad execution, because the only staff able to work was me, giving me a 14-hour workday with no break. As he was the one doing the rota, he would change my hours, so instead of a normal 40-hour work week, I worked 46 hours, not paying me for the extra 6 hours. His sins were many, and if you ever ask, I will gladly tell all. Well, I will. In fact, this is me asking. So Bolt, get a list together and come back to me, and we'll go over the list. That'd be quite funny. But this working extra hours thing, it happened to me too. So on a Saturday morning, we had to turn up early for work, about 2 hours early, at 8 o'clock in the morning, to do training, quote unquote, where we would sit upstairs and the manager would act like a haughty university professor telling us how to sell plastic models. And we were not paid for those 2 hours. That was 2 hours of free labour. Now, we were free to turn that free labour down, but we were also free to get fired for any reason whatsoever because we were both on probation, because we just started, right? So we didn't have any choice no matter whatsoever. When I finished my probation, we still had to do the training, but by that stage, I was used to it, so I just went along with it. I shouldn't have done. I know I shouldn't have done, but, you know, your man needs to pay his rent. So, yeah, is what it is. Games Workshop also expect you, it's in your contract too, they expect you to turn up 15 minutes to half an hour before your shift to get started, to get yourself ready to go. Wrong. I need to turn up to my shift the minute I'm meant to be there to start work. That's how these things fucking go. If you work in a very busy bar, and your shift starts at 6 o'clock, you are expected to turn up at 6 o'clock, right? You then go upstairs, get yourself ready, and come down and start work. That's it. That's how it works, right? That's how employment works. When you think about how much time Games Workshop get out of you for that extra half an hour a day, 3, 6, 9, 12, right? So there's 2 hours already. 2.5 hours of free labour every single week. Let's say they pay you £15 an hour. They don't, but let's say they do. Alright? They're getting, what, £35, £45 out of you every week for free. Yeah. Yeah. Now let's put what they actually give you in terms of pay. £12 an hour, £10 an hour. Let's call it £10 an hour, shall we, after tax, right? Right? So that's 25 quid. 25, 30 quid a week they're getting free out of you for turning up for half an hour. And that's without the 2 hours on a Saturday. The 2 hours on a Saturday for me was another 30 quid. That was just being taken out of my fucking, my time. So that's nearly £60 a week of free labour Games Workshop were getting out of me and other people. It's bullshit. It shouldn't happen. And it fucking pisses me off. Anyway, moving on. 2 big ones come to mind. Okay? Right, cool. 22nd of the 12th, 2017. Oh, wow. This guy's in 24. This day was the end of the Christmas rush. Space Marines were dropping into many stockings and battle forces were... Are you a fucking writer? Like, this guy's fucking hilarious. Space Marines were dropping into many stockings and battle forces will be invading many trees that year. The store was full of customers from the time we opened the door, and he was doing office work in the basement, leaving me alone on the shop floor. By lunch, we had taken £1,500 in sales. Wow. Wow, I think that's my record day, around that, £1,500. I had made 20 intro games. I hated those. And my mood was high, but I was hungry and needed my break. Found out from a text message he had left to buy Christmas gifts and would be back soon. At 3 p.m, he was not there, so I called him. He told me he was getting some weed for the holidays because the police were patrolling. He had to wait a bit longer. He showed up at 4 p.m. to get his bag and go home. Then disaster struck. Some mail orders had been packed wrong from HQ, and I had 3 angry parents in the store. Called HQ for help, and a nice lady told me to give them the value from the shelves and just loss it to keep them happy, and she would send the right stuff to them ASAP. Well, she would send the right stuff to you ASAP, fair enough. But she was ticked that this came from me and not the manager, who should be manning the floor. I called in the cover staff, some lovely blokes who are still my friends, and had my lunch at 6 p.m. Came home at 10. My girlfriend was not pleased. Wow. Wow. I mean, that's fucking bullshit, Again, I've gone into why it's bullshit in the moment before here, but yeah, Games Workshop have a lot to fucking answer for in terms of how they treat their staff. Even now, I know several people who work for Games Workshop, all very good people, and they're not treated well. Retail are the worst of the worst. And it's the wrong way round. Retail are treated as the worst of the worst, but they're the most important factors of the hobby. You know who the 2 most important people in the hobby are, right? People working in retail at Games Workshop and YouTubers. I'm not even fucking joking. YouTube is that big of a deal these days that a dickhead like me can make pocket money on here that can then help his daughter out with. By just talking about Warhammer, shows how big YouTube is. How much do you think Voldemort is making? How much do you think Luton is making? Right? Wolflord Rowe. All he does is read from fucking books. And he makes good money on YouTube doing this. Because he acts as free advertisement for this hobby that we all know and love. And you watch every single time you see a video of Warhammer 40,000 that has 6-figure views, I'm telling you, at least a quarter of those are brand new people who said, "Oh, this looks interesting." The other side of that is people on the high street getting you in and getting you enthused in the hobby. Those are the most important people, and they're treated like shit. And it's not right. But anyway, thank you very much for watching this hobby nightmares, I suppose, or nice hobby stories for the most part. I love you all long time. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and because you've been so nice, if I get some stories overnight that I want to talk to you about, then I will be back tomorrow with some more hobby nightmares. Love you all long time. Like the video, Patreon down below, all that fun stuff. Love you all. See you later. Have a good one.